Hello world! WayofTime here, bringing to you a long overdue episode of Blood Magic Developer Commentaries. It's been a while since I made one of these videos. Obviously I'm gonna be rusty or some other thing like that, but let's actually get started. Right now I am in my nice, shiny, sheep-riddled 1.7.2 world, and I'm here to talk about the new things that are coming to Blood Magic in the near future. What I've been working on, if I can probably, let's go like that. What I've been working on is something called a spell system. Well, you get the idea. I've been working on a spell system in Blood Magic that I'm hoping will be to a lot of people's liking. It's going to be new. It's going to be a lot different. And it's probably going to be a pain in the butt for some people, which is why we're going to have to go over it to at least not muddy the water. Now, this is not in any sort of released version for the mod, because there are quite a few things that I am still wanting to add to it. But let's actually not dilly-dally and try to work out a few things. So first of all, let's open our Blood Magic tab in our creative menu, and you'll notice that there is a lot of new stuff in the mod. Some of this stuff is indeed inside the mod for 1.7 right now, but oh boy, you have no idea how difficult it is to use that stuff in there. Just saying, and it's hardly even complete, so that's, well, something else. So let's see. We have a bunch of crafting components for one. You'll notice that they're very spherical in nature. I know spheres in Minecraft. Ooh. So we have things like quartz rods. We have empty cores. We have a bunch of different cores, and you're probably wondering what it is. So let's actually not bother with too much of a long talking exposure time, because frankly that's boring, and go into the meat and gristle of the stuff. So the spell system in Blood Magic basically expands the current spell system in the mod and amplifies it into such a way that it is as customizable as the player can possibly want, without being like, I want to have fire at an explosion of 1,000 or stuff like that. So in the previous spell system, what you do is take a spell table, take a blood altar, say get an ender pearl for a focus, get a skull of some sort, which would represent the paradigm. So we'd have a paradigm, we'd have the focus, and we'd also want to get a crystal. So a crystal of infinite possibilities or infinite unpossibilities, the unbound crystal. So what you do would be put the skull down, put the focus in, bind it, and then right click for joy. And then you'd have a nice spell that you'd be able to recast. It'd use a bunch of LP, it'd do a bunch of other shenanigans, which I'm not legally allowed to tell you. And yeah, but the problem with this thing is that it is quite static. You're not able to say, I want to tweak the range so that it'd be able to go this far, or I'd like to have it so that it's not as freaking costly, or something like, hey, when I hit one entity, I want it to teleport all of the entities around instead of just that one thing. Unfortunately, with these static spells, that is just not possible. With just a focus and a paradigm, you're not going to get much out of it anyways, so why bother trying that? Now, this new spell system has a few different blocks that you're going to have to use, and it's these blocks themselves, they don't have anything else tied to them, that make up pretty much everything in this spell system. So we have four basic things. We have a paradigm, we have a spell effect, we have a spell modifier, and we have a spell enhancement. Spell paradigms are basically the core of the spell. What it is it represents what type of spell that you want. So, for instance, we'd have a particle generator. This particle generator, when you have it in the world, nice shiny and purple and everything. Lots of magic involved in this, folks. You're not just going to be able to walk to a corner store store and say, hey, can I have a particle generator? Unless it's some sort of microwave and you throw in some popcorn or something. Whew, that's just gritty, dark, burnt particle generator. Anyways, so we have a particle generator, and this would be basically representing a projectile. So if you were to somehow cast a spell with this, you'd get a projectile of some nature. There's also two other things currently. There is the self-augmenter, or augmentator. Yeah, taters. Let's just say the names are a bit of a work in progress. So we have the self-augmenter, I'll call it, which basically represents all of the self spells. So anything that you would cast on you or around the given player. And then there's the melee aggregator. This one is meant to represent things where you point and click. So right click to cast a spell and it'll do a huge area of influence and launch an attack on the things that it sees right in front of it. Apologies for that. So self-augmenter, the melee aggregator, you'd say go up to a pig, click, and it'd die or something like that. Obviously you wouldn't just die because frankly you wouldn't want to ruin so much bacon. It has to drop stuff. But anyways, so we have projectile, self, and melee spells. But these on their own frankly won't do stuff. What we do need is a crystal. Right now it's a work in progress spell crystal, complex spell crystal, and it's a bit more complex than the other counterpart. So what you can do is right click on something. You'll, like the other one, like the normal simple unbound crystal, it'll bind it to coordinates and a dimension, and right clicking on it will also bind it to the player 884. You know, that's how I roll in these test worlds. But right now, if you go up to a pig using the self spell, nothing will happen. Melee spell, equally no. You could probably feed it to the pig or something, but that's not something. Only thing that will have something is the projectile spell, but it does so pitiful damage, like 7, hey, get back here, 8, 9, 10 hits to kill a pig. Obviously not something that you'd want to have in your first line of defense. Heck, right, click, you're not going to hurt anything. It's just going to make them look at you oddly, and probably the zombie will still stab you. You're going to need other things. And obviously, that's where another thing comes into play. What you're going to need is to add some sort of effect to your spell. And that's where spell effects come in. Currently, there's only 4, representing 4 base elements. Currently, you have the Crucible of Fire, right here, represents fire, obviously. You have the Ice Maker. I think I might name it Frost Former or something like that. We have the Wind Generator, and we have the Earth Former. So let's take a look at these 4 blocks and see what they look like. We have fire, ice, wind, and earth. And those are basically the ones that we currently have. They have a model, and now you'll notice a few things different. One is that these paradigm blocks, remember the terminology, paradigm and spell effect. Let's see, time set 1000. I'm going to set myself to 1000, man. So, you have these, and we have these. Now, to link these things together, you're going to need to orient them so that the power of the paradigm block can flow through these other blocks. Now, it's actually quite simple to do that. Say we have our particle generator and an ice spell, and we want to fuse those two together. So let's take this particle generator, and with an empty hand, we'll right-click it. That will orient it into a given direction. And if you look, these colored knobs represent that it's the output. So whenever you see a colored 5-point part, it'll mean that it's the output. So if we were to look at, say, the ice former over here, frost former, whatever it's going to be, ice maker, yes, I'm going to make some ice, please. This will be the output, and that means that this thing will have to be the input. So if we put this here, and input it. And we have an output that'll just hang for now. Lock it. We'll have an ice spell. That'll place a block of ice, or it will just make the chicken angry and do some sort of chicken run or something. So we have ice, and it is good. You can also do something similar with a fire spell. It might not be coded, it might be, and similar to the other ones, if you change the paradigm configuration, it'll still do the stuff. Now, one interesting thing about this one is it's a fire spell, obviously, but another thing is it doesn't, well, it hits things, it sets things on fire, it does a huge plume of fire, etc., etc. Long live the queen and all that. Now, it's kind of blasé. Let's put a default earth one, see what happens, and we actually break some earth when we're going through. Now this one, it breaks it in a cube and kind of completely negates the stuff, so there's no drops whatsoever when you have this, but it's nice for clearing a path when you kind of want to get stuff out of the way and don't care about the drops. Don't use this on anything that you love and dear, because it's just going to break things. So, spell effects, spell paradigms. Obviously that's not all in this mod, or else I'd be doing a horrible job. So, now we have a few other things that we'll look at. Next thing is a modifier. So we have 4 different types of modifiers, and similar to the paradigms of the old spell system, these will indicate what type of focus thing that the spells do. Yes. So for instance, we have the default spell modifier, you have the offensive spell modifier, defensive, and environmental. What these do is shape the spell in such a way that it can focus the energy to do a more specialized task. So for instance, the default spell modifier, it's not necessary, but if you feel like you need to have anything in it, it'll change the given spell effect that's currently happening into a default type. Then there's the offensive, defensive, environmental. Now there are a few rules I should probably talk about in relation to spells. And that is pretty much the linearity of spells, and the fact that it's sequential in what the thing does. So let's say we have a few different ones. Let's go with a nice particle generator. We'll go with an earth former right here, and we'll also want to add some offensive spell modifier just for kicks. I'm not sure which thing this does, but we're going to find out soon enough. So clicky, clicky, there we go. And now we have a spell that is offensive-minded and it's earth-based. So a thing to keep in mind is that whenever you have these spells, it starts projectile, then it goes to the next block. If it's an effect, basically buffers that effect, and the next few blocks that it goes through only affect that single effect. So if we were to do something a little more complex, say if we want an ice and earth spell. Now the thing is, we want an ice default and an earth offensive. So if we were to do a particle generator, an ice maker, and that'd be the default. So this would be the default spell, and it'd be ice. Obviously, play stuff. Now then, we can also add another spell effect to the chain by simply doing this. Now it's going to add an earth one, and by adding an offensive upgrade, you'll be able to change the earth effect to an offensive effect. So now it'll also place ice, however it'll do other things, such as drop the entity into a hole. Now obviously a one block hole isn't going to do much other than destroy the landscape, and you're not going to be a happy camper, and frankly that's not fun. Now a thing to note is that ice, earth, offensive will make ice default, earth, offensive. However, if you were to swap these, instead to make it like this, you'll get a different spell entirely. You'll instead have an Earth default, which will dig stuff through, and an Ice offensive, which, what does this do? Probably damage. Ah, yes, it gives a slowness effect. So they're going to be slow when they have this effect on, and also does extra damage to the entity. Ooh, and it also drops them down a hole. That's just nasty. Let's go onwards. So now you have your super digging spell. Let's keep it as the actually, let's make a digging spell. Particle generator, earth, and add environmental. Which one was this? You gotta remember which ones these are. Ooh, actually, I think this is heavy heart. Nope, one moment. Okay, now I got it. This one actually digs a few blocks, however, it only searches in a certain set of directions. For instance, it can only work at this level completely horizontally. If you try to add a vertical component, it's just going to fizzle out because it's not powerful enough to dig straight down. You're not supposed to dig straight down anyways. What's wrong with you? Let's remake this spell into a bit more of a desirable form, and we can also add some spell conduits, which do frankly absolutely nothing. Thing to note, output, input. 4 dots represent input, 1 dot represent output. So it might be good to place these cables first before anything else. And also shift click makes sure that you only orient the input, and normal click is the output. Yes. Okay, so now we have our nice linear spell, and it only digs horizontal, which is kind of sucky. Now we want to add a bit more shabam to this spell, and that's why we're going to add a bit of bam. In comes the spell enhancements. Now, these spell enhancements are powerful. They are the things that actually add the big freaking oomph to your spells. And they come in 3 varieties with different powers in each variety. Some of the textures are obviously not done, that's why a bunch of them look the same. They start as the Empowerer, the Dampener, and the Augmenter. And these represent power, cost, and potency. Power, cost, potency. And these are, unfortunately, the unstable ones. Unstable in the fact that if you try to add too much power through them, they may possibly blow up. I appear to be missing a pixel there. Huh. Imagine that. Showing bug testing can happen at any time. Though I guess it's not really bug testing, fixing, since it's only like a single pixel. Anyways. Now, these enhancement blocks, they're the final blocks, they add the power to it. So what this does is it adds a bit more power to it. Say, increases the radius. So let's try increasing the radius of our nice little fun shenanigans. Make sure that we have everything just in case we need to rebuild stuff, because that may happen. Hook it up so that the input lines up with the output. Now when we do that, we have a bit larger of a radius that this thing can actually work on. Unfortunately, it's kind of sucky because, well, it can only dig 2 blocks at a time, max. Which, sure, it's fine for some things, however, not really useful when you're trying to dig like a graveyard out or something. I don't know. Maybe put down sick puppies or something. Anyways. So we have, in this case, it increases the radius. If we add a dampener, it decreases the cost. And if we add an augmenter, it will increase the potency. So that same spell will be able to, let's see, dig out much more than it was before. This time it dug out 5. Digs out 5 more, 5 more, 5 more, and continue infinitum. Now, unfortunately, there seems to be a bit of an excess dirt supply, so what we can do is maybe combine a few things and add a wind with an environmental to it. Wind, environmental, add a power, potency, and cost. And now we'll be able to suck up the items that also appear. So now we have a spell that'll be able to dig stuff up and clog our inventory in a bunch of dirt, because that's always fun. Now, there's one thing that should be noted. Let's get this out of the way. You can only add one unstable per spell effect. Unstables are kind of unstable. If you try to add any more power, negative things may happen in the future. So, if we try to add another power to this, a level 1 power, it won't actually add that power effect and may actually explode sometime later. So as you can see, it's still only the 5 radius, it's not going to do anything else. Same if you add the Augmenter. If you try to add extra stuff to the Augmenter, it's not going to hold because it's only going to be able to do a limited amount. You know, I'd shoot him if he wasn't so close to my spell. That's a problem with in-world constructs. You have to constantly Get away! Get away! No! Fudge. Oh well. At least we have some extra stuff. Get away! Die, die! Obviously, I need to add a bit more power to this. So, let's actually continue with this devcom. So, flimsy, unstable, it only works so far. That's why you need to go and get some stronger ones. They come in 5 varieties. 2 of the varieties you won't be able to get yet. Partly because they're not textured, but partly because they're going to be so freaking powerful. There's the standard one. So if you have a standard one, you're able to add a total of 2 of them. And they work linearly in the fact that it can go through a 1. This will have only a max of 1. Then you can have this, so you'll be able to have a max of 2. This will increase the radius to a lot freaking bigger, which isn't helpful if we don't have our nice augmenters. Let's add 2 of these so we can augment the spell so that we can destroy a lot more land with a single thing. Whew! Dang, that's actually pretty powerful. And then we can do the same for cost. So, thing to note, this can only handle 1. These can only handle 2. The reinforced, made of obsidian, can handle 3. Is there another pixel wrong? What's with all these freaking pixels? Come on, guys. You should be able to do better. I should be able to actually notice it before doing a spotlight. Oh well, I'll fix that. So now we can add more range and more potency and probably kill the entire thing. Oh my gosh. Single cast can do a lot of damage. Now, thing to note, it'll still cost a bloody lot. See what I did there? It'll cost a lot. So make sure that when you cast the spells that you have enough LP, or else you're going to really regret it later. And also have some sort of good sorting system, because going through this entire thing, it's going to be difficult. And that's pretty much it currently. The items, the crafting materials are not finalized. They're going to take quite a bit of time to finalize it. It's going to require a lot more alchemy stuff, for one. And it seems, do we have duplicates? We do. Oh, I'll be able to fix that. But yeah, we'll be able to fix all of that stuff in due time. We'll have a lot of fun with this. I hope you guys enjoy. And I think that's enough to whet your appetite before this spell system comes to you. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of the Blood Magic Developer Commentary. If you like what you see, don't forget to go to my thread, rate, comment, subscribe. That doesn't mean as much to me anymore, but oh well. And make sure not to destroy your spells, because you might not be able to cast squat afterwards. WayofTime here, signing off. Have a wonderful day.